There is a body of water the size of Switzerland that can only be reached through one gap in the earth. A gap so shallow that the largest cargo ships in the world cannot pass through it fully loaded, so narrow that a single nation controls every ship that enters or leaves. That gap is the Kerch Strait, and since February 2022, Russia has used it as a weapon. The Kerch Strait is a 41-kilometer sliver of water connecting the Black Sea to the Sea of Azov. At its narrowest point, it is barely 3 kilometers wide. Its average depth is 5 to 15 meters, barely enough for a loaded bulk carrier. The only navigable channel, the Kerch-Yenikale Canal, dredged in the 1870s under the Russian Empire, accepts vessels up to 2 to 15 meters long and 8 meters of draft, with a compulsory Russian pilot on board. That last detail is the point. Every ship that transits the strait must accept a Russian official onto its bridge. Russia has controlled the eastern shore since the empire. After 2014, when it annexed Crimea, it controlled the western shore too. Every centimeter of water between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov is Russian-administered. There is no other way in or out. Before 2022, for that mattered enormously for Ukraine. The Azov ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk were the industrial throat of eastern Ukraine. Steel, iron ore, grain, sunflower oil, the exports of the Donbass and Zaporizhzhia regions flowed out through those terminals. Mariupol alone handled millions of tons of steel annually, making it one of the busiest ports on the Azov coast. Together, Mariupol and Berdyansk accounted for about 5.6% of Ukraine's total grain exports in 2021, a figure that understates their importance because they also handled the bulk of Ukraine's steel and industrial goods bound for world markets. After Russia seized Crimea in 2014 and began harassing Ukrainian ships in the strait, Mariupol's throughput fell by roughly 70%. The shipping lanes became a pressure point, a slow bleed. Then in November 2018, Russia made it explicit. 3 Ukrainian naval vessels were approaching the Kerch Strait in accordance with international law when Russian Coast Guard ships rammed one of them, opened fire, and captured all 3 boats and 24 sailors. The Sea of Azov, Russia declared through its actions, was effectively a Russian lake. The world filed protests. The sailors spent 11 months in Russian custody. By March 2022, with Mariupol under siege and Berdyansk occupied by Russian forces, the Azov ports ceased to function for Ukraine entirely. Russia had turned the choke point into a wall. What followed on the strait itself became a symbol of the entire war: expensive, contested, and impossible to ignore. In May 2018, Putin had opened the Crimean Bridge, 19 kilometers long, the longest bridge in Europe, costing $3.6 billion. Built to bind his annexation into something physical and permanent. It was a political statement in concrete and steel: Crimea is ours forever. Ukraine treated it as a military target from the beginning. In October 2022, a truck bomb destroyed 2 road spans and set a freight train ablaze. Repairs took months. In July 2023, Ukrainian sea drones struck the bridge again, rupturing a span and forcing it to single-lane operation for nearly 3 months. Then in June 2025, Ukraine's security service detonated 100 kilograms of explosives packed against the bridge's underwater supports in the most sophisticated strike yet. The bridge reopened to traffic the same day, but each attack narrowed the margin. The structure that Putin built as a declaration of permanence was becoming an emblem of fragility. Through all of this, Russia was still moving oil. And that is the second story of the Kerch Strait, quieter, deadlier in its own way. Russia's shadow fleet, the armada of aging, uninsured, anonymously owned tankers used to export crude and fuel oil in violation of Western sanctions, routes heavily through the Black Sea and the Kerch Strait. In January 2025, the United States sanctioned 183 ships linked to this fleet. The European Union sanctioned 41 more in December 2025, bringing the total under EU sanctions to nearly 600 vessels. None of it stopped the oil. In December 2024, 2 of those shadow fleet tankers, the Volga-Neft 212, 55 years old, and the Volga-Neft 239, 52 years old, were caught in a storm just south of the Kerch Strait. The Volga-Neft 212 broke in 2 and sank. The Volga-Neft 239 ran aground. Together they spilled roughly 4,000 tons of heavy fuel oil into waters already under stress from 2 years of war. 60 kilometers of coastline turned black. Thousands of seabirds died. Dolphins washed ashore. The spill entered the Black Sea main current and spread for hundreds of kilometers. The Volga-Neft 239 had its operating license suspended 2 weeks before the accident. It should not have been at sea. Russia sent it anyway. By June 2026, with a fragile ceasefire in its 3rd week and negotiators still far from a territorial settlement, the Kerch Strait sits in an ambiguous no-man's land. Mariupol and Berdyansk remain under Russian occupation. Ukraine's grain now leaves almost entirely through the Black Sea grain corridor and overland through Romania, a workaround that costs more time, more money, carried, and more logistics than the ports that once sat 200 kilometers to the east. The occupied Azov ports are now exporting Russian-looted Ukrainian grain, some 2.5 million tons planned through Berdyansk alone in 2026, through the same strait that used to serve Ukrainian farmers. Carried. Meanwhile, shadow fleet tankers keep threading through the Kerch-Strait Canal under Russian pilotage. Carried. Their cargoes destined for buyers who don't ask questions and their hulls held together by deferred maintenance and indifference. The Kerch Strait is 3 kilometers wide at its narrowest. A single nation controls the pilots, the channel, the bridge, and the guns on both shores. The Sea of Azov behind it has 5 significant ports, 3 of them currently under occupation. If Ukraine ever recovers them, the strait becomes the artery that rebuilds a country, the route by which Zaporizhzhia steel and Donbas grain return to world markets. If Russia holds them, it remains the lock on a stolen sea, a permanent chokehold on whatever Ukraine is permitted to become. The water hasn't changed. It's still shallow enough to run aground in the wrong place, still narrow enough to watch the other shore with the naked eye on a clear day. What has changed is the cost of every ship that tries to pass, and the cost of the ones that never will.